Hi, it's Marnie. Welcome back. I am here today with Karen Whiting. I'm excited because we're going to be talking about some tips and strategies for wannabe writers. And according to the polls, apparently like 90% of the people in America want to write a book. So most of you qualify for this, whether you have thought of it yet or not. Karen is an exciting person to have with us today because she has written, as of the end of 2021, written and published 30 books, which is astounding. She is also a speaker and coach. She specializes in helping writers get their projects done, published, and marketed. You can learn more about her over at KarenWhiting.com. We have got so much ground to cover today that I can't wait to just bring you on. So welcome, Karen.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Marnie. Love to be with you.
Yeah, and I'm excited to share your brilliance here with our audience of leaders and communicators and godly women worldwide. So welcome to you. Let's go ahead and dive right in because like I said, I was picking your brain before we went live and I'm going to keep picking it all interview and I will keep picking it afterwards. You are a fount of wisdom. So you guys keep this email or this website in mind. KarenWhiting.com. Okay, so let's start with what helps your proposals stand out to land those contracts. So we're talking about book proposals here, and we're talking about sending them to an editor to a publisher or to an agent or both.
Both. I have an agent. I've had an agent for quite a while, but I also talk to my editors at different houses and at conferences. I still have it go through that agent to get there.
Okay.
But this is to go to the traditional publishers. That's all I have worked with.
Okay.
And I have them stand out for 3 different reasons that you really need. You need to really know your audience, their needs, and their desires. Because they may need to forgive people, but that's not what they want to hear. What they want to hear is they want to have peace and restored relationships. So you see there's a difference. You've got to put both in there. What's the problem, the need you're addressing? What's the solution, the desired outcome that's going to draw that reader in? What's the promise you're going to give them? Then I need to have a unique slant. What's different about my book? You know, I'm doing a craft book this year of one of the 4 books I'm doing. There's a lot of craft books out. There's a lot of proposals. How can you make it unique? Well, and how can it also solve a problem? I am doing a book of crafts on kindness that will also help develop the written etiquette again. And so that's very different because in a world where there's so much anger and disunity, we need more kindness.
I love that. I love
and that, of course, is contracted because that's a good, different slant that's not out there already. And then you need to show your ability to market the book. You may not already have a great platform, but if you show you're building it and that you have unique ideas of how you're going to reach your market, that can make a difference too.
Yeah, right. All of these are so important. And it's a great place to start because I think a lot of writers start with what's in my head. I'll write it down on paper. And actually, that's not going to be enough to get a publisher to publish your book.
No, especially if you haven't gone and researched to see what is out there and what is different about them. And when you find what's different about yours, can you highlight it and make more of it? That if yours is different, say, because there's this kindness element in it, can you make sure every chapter maybe has a little sidebar or a little something that reminds people of another tip on how to be kind? Because that makes yours a little bit different.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. So cool. Let's talk about how to make sure your book is unique and will attract the readers. So like you said, you were talking about a craft book or whatever. When my first book was written, it was a kitchen shortcuts book. And before it was published, I had interlibrary loaned 200 books that I felt like were on the topic. But I couldn't find a book that was explaining what I was doing in the kitchen. And so that's where I knew, okay, I need to send this to somebody because it's just not out there. So how do you go about your writing? You have 4 books coming out this year, Karen. How did you find the hole in the market, the place that's unique?
Each time is different, but one of the best ways to do it is to use your social media and ask a few sifting questions. Ask them some questions and see how many people engage. If you ask a question that will bring up a solution they can't find, and it may, if it's a cooking thing, do you know what to do when a yeast bread fails? Do you know the problem? And if they all come back and say, no, but I sure wish I did, and then you can give them one, you know you have something that they're not finding elsewhere. Or you put out a meme that has something on it. So maybe you're doing something for moms, and your big idea is that you want to talk to them about, am I really good enough? And am I normal? Am I so different because of the time I'm living in or whatever? And that meme starts to show that. You see again, does it resonate? You might even want to do a $5 ad to see how much engagement you get with that. That starts to help you. And when you see people ask, what can't they find in a book for moms? Or what can't they find in a craft book? What can't they find somewhere? So that you start hearing those same things. It's your own little surveys. And that helps you know what is needed. And in fact, my book for moms has that element of, am I normal? Or is it just because of what we're in right now? And what I found was I could put in biblical moms and a mom from history, as well as contemporary moms, and let them see there are certain things, struggles, loving the hugs and kisses, that are always there for all moms of all times.
So real quick, and this isn't in our list, but I just am dying to know, do you start with a book idea and find the hole in the market, or do you wait until you see the hole and write the book?
It just depends.
Yeah, both ways.
What's happening. Sometimes I find the hole, I had a publisher come and ask me to do a book, and I came back and said, well, I don't want to do it on the topics you gave me, but how about on moms? And they said, okay, what would be different and what would you do? And I looked and I thought, I've worked with that publisher. They like history. Why don't I incorporate that and make it different of perspectives from past, present, and future moms? So now everybody would say, how do you put in a future mom? Do you know how I do that? I ask little girls for quotes, and I sprinkle those little quotes through the book, which of course makes me chuckle, because they're, they're darndest things, aren't they cute?
Yes. Oh, how creative. That is so beautiful. So how do you continue to get contracts with even some of the same publishers? Okay, so tell us, over your career now, how many publishers have you had total?
Probably 15 or so.
Wow. Okay. So 27 now published books by the end of the year, 30. And now you're working with, did you say 4 right now?
Publishers this year for 4 books.
Yeah.
Yes. One is new to me.
Yep. So is that because you're in different genres, or why is it that you have this many publishers going on?
Some of it is in different genres. Some of it is because certain publishers have a limit of how many they'll publish in a year. So
sure.
May not be able to fit in with them that year, and and others it's just because of these relationships and meeting them that they might come to me. As I mentioned in Mother's book, they came to me about doing another book for them. But how I continue everything is to keep a relationship up, keep open the lines of communication. So even if the book's 4 years out, if I'm doing something new on marketing, I send a note to my editor to say what I'm doing and what I'm finding out from that. Or I may send an email to pitch another idea and see whether they like that or not, and then go ahead and have my agent pitch that in a more formal way. So you want to do that. Send a Christmas card. Send them a note when it's the editor week in August that you appreciate them, editor appreciation week. Just staying in contact helps them out. If they're on Facebook and I'll follow them, put in comments and just, like the things that they're talking about of their own life that's happening.
Yeah. Yep. And so I think from my perspective, as well as from all the people that I have interviewed over the years, the key thing with your publisher is to not be a prima donna. Just be a nice person.
Right. Yes. You want to be a prima donna, pick your fights. When I had certain books, and there might be something where they said, well, we need to change this because, and I'll say, oh, okay, I know why I wanted it in there and you didn't get it, so I didn't write it right. And I said, let me explain, and I'm rewriting it this way. And they'll go, oh, now we get it. Yes, it belongs there. Right. But other things that they wanted to change, it was like, no biggie. Go ahead.
Yep.
If that makes you happy. I'm not fighting over my words.
Right. And when you call, give them time to respond. They're very busy. I mean, just be a nice person is basically.
Well, I don't just call. I email and ask for a scheduled phone call time.
Yes. Yeah. Just be courteous and treat them like the gold that they are. Okay, so how do you make new connections in the publishing industry? Let's say somebody that's listening does not have one single contact anywhere in the whole publishing industry. What is your advice to them?
There are three ways to do that. One is to go to a writer's conference where an editor, especially one you'd like to meet, is going to be, and make an appointment to see them. Two is be in a writer's critique group with authors who are published and ask who their publishers are, and if they like something you're doing and they're working with you, would they
Yeah.
connect you to them?
Nice.
And the third way is by using social media. I've known a number of people that they started developing a relationship on social media with an editor and ended up with a book contract.
Yeah. So my phrase is no drive-by shootings, which is you can't just find an editor and send them a personal note and say, hey, do you want to publish my book? Because that is not how relationships work. That's like walking up to a stranger in the grocery store and saying, hey, will you marry me? You just can't do it that way. You're talking about relationship, and we need you to hear this. It's about relationship and not just about using somebody to get to your ends.
Right. That goes for the agent or the editor, because a lot of
Absolutely.
places will only accept through an agent. So you need to meet the agent or get to know them in one of those ways. And then they will go ahead and submit to the editor that they already know.
Right. They know the editor is right. So that the agent actually is your number one way. And honestly, at this point, I'm going to let you answer this in a second, but at this point, I encourage you, if you are going to go for a traditional publisher, you want to go through an agent. You don't even want to try to be directly sending to publishing houses. What's your input on that?
That's to accept when you have gone to a writer's conference, met with that editor, and they ask you to send it. Or you can still say, well, do I need to get an agent or not? And they'll tell you, yeah, you better get one, or just send it to me for right now. You can worry about that later.
Yeah,
I mean,
awesome.
if we give you a contract, then it's easy to get an agent. Sometimes it'll take you a lot longer to get one first, and I want to see the book now.
Yeah, good.
That's going to be in the editor's corner at that point, but you should ask that question when you have.
Beautiful. We're going to change tacks here just a little bit. Idea to help you market your books. I know we could spend hours just on this topic alone. So what I wanted you to do, if you would, for us, is to just pick a couple of your favorite ways that you have personally seen or done to help market your books.
Well, because I'm a former television host, media has been one of my best ways. Yeah. It's not that hard for me to pitch. People are comfortable thinking, oh, she has experience. She's not going to freeze up on me.
Sure.
And that sort of thing. So first, think of your best talents in the areas of marketing, because there's 5 main areas. There's media, social media, print, which includes articles, speaking, and becoming an expert in your field. And sometimes people are an expert and then they write a book. Any of those can come first. So think of where your expertise is of those areas of marketing and develop that. If you have no platform, you're not speaking, then the best way for you is probably going to be through articles and social media. Because you can develop a name by doing enough articles. They're out there. Everyone reads them and sees them, especially if it's a big online platform magazine.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you so much. Really helpful. And then how do you identify and get invited to write for niche markets?
For the niche market, so say writing for puppetry. I was teaching at puppet companies at the conferences and places they had. And actually, I first went to them and we were performing for competition. And then I would share within the workshops my ideas and bring up things. And then I applied to teach. And then I had my puppet book out. So I was able to sell it when I was teaching. And they also then started publishing books. And I got into some of their books too, although didn't send them a separate book to do at that time. But that is one of the ways. Again, you have to build the relationship with them, get them to know you, and have them think of you as an expert.
So something that you're saying here is really important. I want to kind of pull this out a little bit more. You didn't just go and research about puppetry and write a book on it.
No, I studied at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Institute of Puppetry. My teacher was Margot Rose, and one of my teachers, and she And her husband invented Howdy Doody and manipulated Howdy Doody and taught Jim Henson. He was one of our guest lecturers who came up also. And then I ended up starting a puppet ministry. Actually, my daughter started it, and I worked with her. She went off to college, and I had puppets in hand, continued it, and joined a puppet guild, and ended up having a television series on puppetry. And it just all kept going on from there. So yes, you tend to build, if you're going to do something in a niche market, you probably want to do something with that group. I've done some things with American Heritage Girls, and I wrote for their magazine, and they want at some point for me to perhaps redo their puppet badge. It hasn't worked out yet. And so I stay in touch with them because that's another type of a niche market that does other things.
So I think the key that I wanted to bring up here is we were talking before we came live that both of us have moved on and have like Bible studies now and different things that are also very true to who we are. It's not like this is something we pull out of the air and talk about. But your first book was on puppetry and my first book was Kitchen Shortcuts. And so you look at the trajectory where we started in writing compared to where we are now. Not necessarily the same genres all the time, not the same styles of books, not the same audiences, some crossover, but at the same time, there's a lot of flexibility here because everyone watching, each of you, you have your own unique set of skills and talents. And that's actually one of the things that makes your writing unique is that you bring to it this combination of things that make you. And so that's one of the reasons why you can write something that nobody else could ever write.
And of course, the craft book on kindness includes a section on puppetry.
Well, you sneak it in wherever you can, right? Love it. Love it. Okay. So networking, how do we network, and specifically, how do we network to get more book deals or to meet more people that are in the industry?
Well, you need to go where the industry is. So you can go to industry shows like the Christian Product Expo in Charlotte, North Carolina, February 14th to 16th of 2021. They have another one in August, about the third weekend of August in St. Louis, Missouri. So you can go to those shows. You can also go to writers' conferences where, again, you'll have industry people there. You'll have anyone from another novice author on up to the publishers and the technical people who do things, the podcast people, whatever. And that helps you just learn to know them. The other way is to get the Writer's Market Guide in your field. So whether it's the Romance Writers, the Children's Writers Market Guide, the Christian Writers Market Guide. I got the Christian Writers Market Guide when I started, went to my first conference, and I read it 5 minutes every night till I read through the whole thing so that I could study the market, know who are the publishers, know what types of things they publish, what they want, who does the periodicals. Of course, it always changes. You have to get a new one each year. And I don't study them as much as I did in the past because I'm more established. I know the people. But if you want to know what the industry's about, you should read a book like that and really study it to learn.
That's awesome. And you will learn so much by just reading what they want. That's just, and how they want it. That's just going to be huge. So let's say that a new author who hasn't even completed her book yet, she has an idea, she's working on her book, she goes to one of these conferences, she walks in, it's a huge auditorium with all these booths and all these people, and she goes and she sits at a coffee table and has some coffee because I'm here and I have no clue what to do.
Right. She needs to get up, move around, and meet people. She needs to get beyond her comfort zone and have a little courage, have some business cards with her that just has her name. She can put WannaBe writer on it. She can put something else of, fiction writer, whatever she thinks she's going to become, because you can be walking into your dream. And just talk to people, ask what they do. And if it's an author, ask, how did you get published, or where are you in the process? If that's an editor, say, what do you look for? And, I have this question. I don't have a proposal yet, but what would you want to see if I was writing about XYZ that I like to write about? Or someone who maybe is there to teach all the technicality of you want to start your own podcast, you might start saying, well, what do I need to begin with? If I'm just going to be a guest, what do I need for my basic computer just to do my own Facebook Live? Is there anything I need? And just ask questions, because you'll learn so much and get to know them. When you meet someone who's another newbie, don't back away. Don't think, well, they're not worth it. They are. You don't know where they're going to go ahead of you. You don't know what's going to happen or who they will meet that will connect you to someone else. And therefore, just get to know them. And they might be a great buddy to be your critique group person online.
I love that. Now let's talk to the writer who's got the whole manuscript done, very clear, knows who her niche is, who her prospective audience is. She's going to this writers conference with one goal in mind. I really want to come away with an agent. I really want to walk away from this weekend with an agent, or this couple weekdays. So how does she address that space?
She's going to go, and hopefully it's one that allows her to set up appointments to meet with agents. She's going to meet with them and be ready for a 15-minute interview. She should practice that ahead of time. She should not be doing all the talking. She should be doing a lot of the listening. And he or she should have her proposal right there, have a one sheet that gives a quick overview of the book, and have a little catalog, I call it, of her other ideas, because they might say, oh, really like this, sense stress and everything, but you know, we just contracted 2 books on stress. We're not ready to do another one. I like your writing. I like your ideas. What else have you got? And then she can say, well, I have these other ideas I want to develop. And they will look at that. They'll read fast. They can go right through and say, I want to look at this one. Tell me about this one. And that helps them branch out a little bit more. Okay. And the agent, I mean, that's more, an editor's going to be very niche as to what they have left needing. But the agent also thinks, oh, we already have 5 authors who write on that topic. What else do you write on? Because I'm not sure how many more we can represent with the same topic. And that can be a very true thing. You can get a lot of agencies that have people who write on prayer, and people who write on emotional stresses and things. And so you've got to think about that. And you should also have done your research on the agent before you get there to see who they have placed. Are they only placing fiction authors and you write nonfiction, or vice versa?
Right.
Don't waste your time with someone who's not going to represent you. Are you doing children's books and not many agents represent it? Is there anyone there who does? You know, you've got to do your homework before you get there. You've got to be ready to present what you have, listen to their feedback, and also have other ideas in your pocket or right there on the table in the catalog to be able to talk about what else you can do.
Gold, absolute gold. And for some of you listening, you're like devastated right this minute. You're like, I don't have anything else. I have this one precious baby. And if that's you, that's okay. Then you're really going to be looking for the agents who carry books like yours, who will find, and if you get with them and they say we don't have any openings for that, say great, because that narrows down who I'm going to keep talking to as I go forward. So it's not a big deal if you don't feel like you're a big multi-book author.
Right. And you may think, I have this one idea. Now, fiction, you're not usually going to have someone who has the exact same fiction plot, okay, and story. But you're going to be looking, does this place represent my genre? Do they do sci-fi, or do they do historic fiction, or whatever it is you are? So you've got to kind of narrow it, even with the agencies. Agencies with fiction will usually do a broad amount. But even if it's nonfiction, and say you're doing a marriage book, they'll probably represent a lot, but they may say, I have something similar. Can you slant it differently? Right. And you might be ready to think, can I pull out something in here and highlight a different part of each chapter than what I was planning to?
Right. Yeah. Flexibility is huge. And Elizabeth Elliot defined flexibility as humility. And I loved that. just get down. You had your ideas, but now reality sets in and we just have to flex a little. So, why sometimes, or why always, I'm going to back up and I'm going to say that a different way. We have marketing, and marketing has legs like the legs of a table or the legs of a chair. And if we're missing some of those, it doesn't work out well. It's like a chair missing a leg. And so what are the legs that you would say need to be in place for marketing to work?
Right. And let's just step back and think about the person whose big platform was speaking this past year. With COVID, when things shut down and everything got canceled, They lost a lot of their platform unless they were able to shift very quickly online. If they had not been doing social media and other things online and had not been familiar with Zoom, it would have taken them a lot longer to get into position. They could have lost a lot from that. And that's one of the reasons you want the legs. You don't know what's coming in the future. And so you need to have always start again with your strength. Are you a natural speaker? Are you great staying home, hiding away, and just doing social networking? Are you good at just pumping out articles for places? And that's going to be probably your strongest leg. But I like to have a few different legs. So I always have the media. I always have print because I like doing articles. I've sold more than 850 articles. Plus I've done a few hundred that are just free ones for publications that are nonprofit that don't pay. And I also do social media, and I don't do a lot of different social medias. I do a couple because I can focus on that well, and I just don't want to spend that much time on the computer on social media. But you need to know that you've got a few, and that if one all of a sudden is not working in the market, what can you build on, and do you have the knowledge to make that bigger than it was even?
Right, right. So, a lot of people will call this, streams of income or whatever, where you have more than just one. And when you are a solopreneur, especially when you are a writer or you are a speaker or like that, it is important to have more than just one source of income because, like you say, last year, planners and speakers got just creamed last year. And a lot of them, that's what God called them to do, and they just have to ride this out. It'll come out the other side. But many of us were able to press hard into something else that we were doing. I did more writing than ever last year, different things. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. Now, how do you keep track of all that you write along with all your marketing contact details and deadlines and your relationships? What's a tool that you like to use?
I like to use spreadsheets. Now, I am a mathematician, so that is a natural for me. But all I have to do is think of spreadsheets as rows and columns, whether you pull in and make a chart in your Word document, or you use Excel, or you use numbers, or whatever you're using. It's all in one place. You can usually fit it on one screen, and that makes it really nice. I use my columns for the units and the columns for the elements and the rows for the units. The units meaning chapter, or if it's a 365 devotional, each devotion is a unit, or maybe they're grouped by weeks. And the elements would be what's going to be common in all. So if it's fiction, those elements might be the plot, what's happening to the main character, the antagonist, and scenery, those types of things, whatever elements you want to track. Yeah. If you're doing books. Now, if you're doing marketing, then I'm going to have sections within my spreadsheet. So one section is going to be on the media. Another section is on articles and print. What am I doing? Because that print includes freebie downloads they can get from my website. And it'll include the speaking that I will be doing. It will include all of the areas that we've been talking about, but I have them in sections. And then within that section, I will be just putting them in as I have that from my other database, as I start emailing to people and making contacts to pitch to see if they want something from me. The elements there are going to be, what is it? What media magazine? What social media are you using? Who is the contact person? Because even on media, is there someone that you're going to try to engage with a little bit more because they already have an established group for your audience? And if you can engage with them, those people may get interested in you, especially if you have a page and you engage as your page. Then they may start thinking, oh, I really want to go look at Karen Whiting's page, Growing a Mother's Heart. Let me go look at that. And that helps you build your audience. It's sort of piggybacking on that platform, or some people call it borrowed platforms. And you're going to want their address, particularly if they're media, because you need to send them a thank you note. Again, that's part of keeping the communication, the relationship going. You're not hoping for just this one interaction, but can we build a relationship? Can I do something for you? You're doing something for me, because we're helping one another in the body of Christ with what we are doing. We were talking about that ahead of time.
Right.
So, All of that is going to go in my sheet. And as I get dates, I'm going to fill in the scheduled dates, the yes, the no's. The no's I don't always keep in there. I may pull down because they may have reasons. No until September, or no, I'm not doing that anymore. It may come back in a while.
Right.
I'm not taking guests, but I'm hoping to starting in the summer. So I put a
Right.
little note, go to my calendar,
Mhm.
and say, get in touch with so and so in, and put it in July and say, because she may restart or may open up to guests. But
Mhm.
everything you want to track is in there. And with a spreadsheet, the nice thing is you can hyperlink. You can put a link in. So I can go, and I have you in my spreadsheet, Marnie. So not only do I have you and the name of your show and your contact, I have a link to your website. So I can go in there and go, I don't have to look up your website. I don't even have to just type it in. I can just link and go right to it.
Right. Yeah, the more complete that set of data is, the better. You can use a CRM. There's lots of those out there. I use Nimble. There's just a ton of ways that you can do this, but whatever you do, you need to have a way to keep track, because as you get more and more connections, I don't know how many you have. I think on all of my socials all together, it's over 100,000. And so it's like, okay, you just can't keep that in your head. At some point,
Well,
at
yes. I mean,
some point, you just lose it unless you have a way to keep track.
even live radio, I have over 100 stations. That's quite
Yeah.
a lot to have in there for radio. And
Yeah.
television, well over a dozen or two.
Yeah.
And that way I can keep track of them and know when I've been on and know what their slant is, because certain books I'll go to them with and other books aren't going to fit with their audience.
Right. 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 And it is so important that you're targeting these and you're not just sending a bulk. If you just are going to send out a bulk email, it's probably just going to go where bulk emails go, and you're probably not going to get much traction. So it is really about developing the relationships. And then when you have something that you feel like, oh, this would be perfect for so and so, that's when you're going to be pitching it there.
Yes, right.
So, okay, so we talked about the legs of the marketing strategy already. So I think, wow, we did it, Karen, because that's amazing. When we started, before we came online, I'm like, I don't know how we're going to get through all this, but we're going to try. So you did amazing. You did awesome. I know I could just keep picking your brain for a lot longer, but I guess while we were talking, did anything else in particular bubble to the surface that you were like, if I could tell them just one more thing, this is what I thought of during the show here?
Yes, I would say if I could tell them one more thing, they're always so anxious. I have to get it out right now. This audience needs
Mm.
you right now. Well, you know what? Next year's audience is going to need you right then. You have to trust
Mm.
God's timing. Do
Amen.
you want to put out an Isaac or an Ishmael?
Mm.
What do you give it?
Good one. That's awesome. Yeah. So it is true. It is true. And I don't know. So many, especially new authors, are scared that somebody's going to steal their idea. And actually, I just have to tell you, there was one of my books it was just a little tiny, it was called Scavenger Hunt Handbook. And it just sold and sold and sold and sold and sold and sold. And then all of a sudden sales started falling off. And I thought, what's going on? But you know what had happened is that the internet had gotten saturated with my scavenger hunts, because when I wrote it, there were only 2 books, a treasure hunt book and mine. That was it on the entire internet. If you were searching for scavenger hunts, that was it, so long ago. But then everybody was like reposting, we did this one, we did that one. And comments started coming back, why are you charging for this one? I can find them free on the internet.
Oh,
And I remember thinking, the only reason they're free on the internet is because I wrote the book. But, you just have to say there's a season for everything. There's a season. And when your season comes to an end, it's okay. It still sells a little bit. So, just don't worry about it. It's a season for a reason. And I love, do you want an Isaac or an Ishmael? That is a great way to keep this in focus here. I want to do this right. I want to let God's timing put me with the right people to work with this project and to see it come to all that God had in his heart when he put it in mine. Karen, thank you so much for your life, for your ministry, and thank you for being here.
oh, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure, Marnie.
And when you guys go over to Karen's website, it's KarenWhiting.com. When they go there, what are they going to find, Karen?
They'll find a little bit about me. They'll find a sign up for my newsletter. They'll find some blog posts they can go look at, which I have to do some fresh ones soon. They'll find another what's in the news about what's happening with me, which I just put up a little something new, but I've got to do a little bit more on that. And, it changes. I'm going to be putting up, I don't know if it's a quiz. It's not really a funnel so much as kind of a guidance to, if you want something for moms, go here. If you're a crafty person, go here.
Nice.
I do want to do that and guide them to different pages, which will
Sure.
also kind of highlight different books that I have. And I'm probably not going to get to that till the summer because I have deadlines until May 1st with these books.
Life under the deadline. Okay, well, so awesome. Thank you for being here. If you guys are interested in having Karen come speak to your group, just reach out to her at her own website, KarenWhiting.com, or at womenspeakers.com. Thanks for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you next